coming back to that point on your partner who's abusing you, the whole intention is to break you down. Now, when you mean breaking you down, what trauma, what were you going through for you to know that this is destructive? This is not just you finding a way out of your marriage or something.
As I've said, I didn't see the warning signs, so I didn't even realize it was destructive. But looking back, I can now see that as soon as someone tries to dominate or remove your faith in God, that is already a huge red flag. In my case, my husband didn't want me believing in God, so he discouraged me from doing that. He wanted me to choose him as my God. That is an obvious red flag. Removing my support system, which were Christian, was another red flag. So time spent with my Christian family and friends was discouraged. I didn't see it as that. So little things like that, without getting too personal, and obviously there's a lot of trauma involved. But that is covered in more detail in the book as well.
Yeah, we'll go to that. And I think that's very important, just to understand also this breaking down. That people can see that as harmful, and to know what it really entails to be brought to that place where somebody is actually controlling you in that way with the intention of just breaking you down.
If I can just expand on that a little bit more, Venora, breaking down to me was firstly breaking down my faith, breaking down my support system, breaking down my emotional ability to stand on my own 2 feet. So my independence was broken down. My financial independence was broken down. I was kept in robot mode, in survival mode. I was not able to deal with my emotions because they were just too much. So it was easier for me to just exist day by day without trying to feel and analyze and ask questions, the healthy questions, like, what is going on? Is this good? Is this bad? I couldn't ask those questions of myself because my self-worth, and I think this is the biggest one, my self-worth was broken down to such an extent that I was a no one. I was there for his beck and call and for no other reason.
I like that, what were those healthy questions that you could have asked for somebody who was going through it?
Healthy questions. What is love? What is God's love? This person that I'm with says they know me. But let's test that. Do they really know me? What is respect? Is my respect the same as his views of respect? And I think in asking those questions, a marriage preparation course is absolutely essential, because our family backgrounds determine a lot of our thoughts and our actions. But we as partners come from different family backgrounds. We need to understand our own family background as well as our partner's family background in order to know where we are currently standing. And in a Christian-based marriage preparation course, those things will come up, and the healthy questions will be asked within such a course. So I think that is absolutely critical. And perhaps if your partner says to you, I'm not interested in a marriage prep course, that is already a warning sign. If they love you, then would they go the extra mile of doing something that you feel is important? A few more points of destructive behavior are the following questions you can ask yourself. Has your partner ever locked you in the house? Has your partner ever blamed you for the way he acts? Has your partner ever threatened to hurt you or your children? Has your partner ever hurt you or your children?
So you go on in your book to also, under the chapter of destructive relationships, you speak of narcissistic family traits. You want to just run us through what it means to be a narcissist or married to a narcissist or narcissist yourself and how destructive that is?
Narcissism is focused on control, not only of the person's partner, but also the children, the in-laws, the employers. You can have a narcissistic boss. Within the family, there are some traits, and I'm just going to touch quite briefly on 3 or 4 of them. The first one is secrets. So the children are taught, don't tell the outside world. Pretend everything is fine. It's all about image. And it ties in very nicely with secrets. The children are taught, what would the neighbors think? Always put a smile on your face. There's a lack of parental hierarchy. Whereas in healthy families, there's a strong parental hierarchy where the parents are in charge. In narcissistic families, it's totally different. The children are there to serve the parental needs. So it's a totally warped system of, being together. As is unclear boundaries. Siblings are not encouraged to be close. They are often pitted against each other. Dysfunction. It's complete and utter dysfunction where everything is turned upside down. Another narcissistic family trait is lack of emotion. As I've said, I was in robot mode. Emotions are not encouraged except for the narcissistic person. They are allowed to show all the emotion they want, and everyone else needs to revolve around them. And this affects, obviously, the person's partner, you, the victim, and the children. So, in effect, that leads to lack of communication, because you're never allowed to share how you feel. Because when you do, there will be ramifications. Affection from his side will be withheld, or they may drink more or smoke more, or the language may become more abusive. So you rather store your feelings deep inside yourself, firstly because they are too hard to feel, and then secondly because if you express your feelings, there will be consequences.
Thanks, Lizanne. I'm also just looking at the book, and especially under narcissistic family traits, there's just so much more. I know we can't do it all in one recording. Just to give a little bit of a summary, you write here, emotional and psychological abuse are not as obvious as physical abuse. These types of abuse can have an enormous impact on your self-esteem and self-worth. It can leave you feeling anxious, worthless, and even depressed, and it is equally as harmful as physical abuse. So while the person using abuse might never have physically hurt you or your children, emotional and psychological abuse is no less serious than physical violence and abuse. No matter how normal it may seem, emotional and psychological abuse are not acceptable, and no one deserves to experience this abuse. Having been abused emotionally, psychologically, sexually, financially, and spiritually myself, I understood your fear and hesitancy in taking action. But believe me, you owe it to yourself and your children, if you have children. Don't let the abuse continue until it becomes life-threatening before you choose to act. It's like we're not doing justice just by talking, because when you read the book, there's really so much more. So just to wrap up this part of destructive relationships.
It's important to know what abuse is. And that is one of my main core activities, is to educate people as to what abuse is. If you don't know what it is, you're not going to know if you are being abused or not. And it's also important to realize that although some cases physical abuse might start off in the relationship very early on, many cases it doesn't. Sometimes it never gets physical. But the emotional and psychological abuse often leads to violence, which is then physical. So it starts progressively. It can even start as financial abuse, and you don't realize it because you're in love. But the longer you are with a person, they manipulate you. They almost brainwash you into thinking that everything is normal and fine. And that's where it's easier to get clouded when the physical abuse starts, because you're so used to the other abuse, that this is just a progressive level, and that is not right.
So we are talking to Lizanne Hattingh. She's the author of the book Loved by Grace, Toward a Graceful Purpose. She's a survivor activist of gender-based violence. And we're so grateful to have her in the studios of Good News Community Radio. We're going through a book. We're just going to take a short break here. But before that, there's such interesting reviews on the book. Maybe I'll just take this one by Caroline Arison. And she writes, I was thoroughly impressed. Your book resonated with me and your work has certainly left a lasting impression. What struck me most about your book was its easy reading and your style of writing, which is engaging. I particularly enjoyed the chapters on practical single parenting and practical communication. Please keep writing. Well done for that, because definitely when I got to have an overview of the book as well, I thought this is quite something. And to have the author herself in the studios, that's really an honor. Thank you so much for your time. We take a break here and be coming right back with Lizanne Hattingh.